I started out in Colorado. Let me start that way. I started out in Colorado. I started flying to Florida because my sister would call up and cry on the phone and say, I can't take care of my parents. Our parents all by myself. You gotta come down and help me. So I started flying down to St. Petersburg and staying with my sister's group. And when I was down here, I would drive around and I drove through Gulfport. And I looked at some of the homes and everything. I thought, God, this is really a neat little area. And back then, like they were selling drugs on the corner, and all kinds of stuff was going on. And you could walk down the street, there weren't any cars parked anywhere, not hardly anything was going on really. But anyway, after we moved our parents over to Eckerd College in 1989, why we ended up getting a store on the corner of, I'm trying to think where it is, on the corner of 29th and Beach. And we were storing furniture in there from our parents. And then I turned it into a kind of a shop and turned it into, we called it the playroom at that time. And it had all this furniture, and so it sold antiques out of it. And then pretty soon, the gal across the street, Angela Sachs, who had Eye of the Dragon, she sold Oriental things. We had a torrential rain, the roof leaked and fell in, and I said, well, hey, come over here. So Angela moved her stuff over to my shop, and my shop is where Sumitra coffee shop is. But it used to be all glassed in, floor to ceiling. It was just a beautiful area. And so Angela and then I got into Oriental. So I was selling Oriental collectibles, antiques, and all kinds of stuff. And then from then it went on. There were other artists up the street, like Nan and Bill Griffin and Matthew Marshall and Penny Pinchers, and John Twilowski had it was a mess really, but I shouldn't say that. But he just had a bunch of stuff in this where TLC is. And then Joanne D'Ambra had her shop up there, which was Top This Boutique. And she just came back about a week or so ago after 20 years of being gone up in North Carolina and stuff. And she couldn't get over how Gulfport had evolved the way it has now. And when we first had shops on the street, we started having the Friday night, what do you call it? The gallery walk. And we would each chip in to pay the musicians. And so somebody would have to go from shop to shop to shop, and say, hey, you want to kick in for the music tonight? Well, they'd kick in $5 or $10, and some people didn't have the money, but that was how we started out with music on the street. And
what year was that? What year was it that you moved to Gulfport? When did you finally call Gulfport?
Oh, geez, that was probably the 1990s.
What was Gulfport like that outside of Beach Boulevard? Did you live on Beach Boulevard, or where did you move when you moved to Gulfport?
Well, my husband and I bought a condominium over at Harborside in 1993. And before that, I was just staying with my sister. But then when I had the shop, then I said to John, I said, I can't keep staying with my sister all the time. She drives me nuts, bright day and night. And so we bought this condo over at Harborside in 1993. So, and then I also had driven my car down from Colorado. So anyway, I was, then I bought this house on Gulfport Boulevard, which is right across from the Marathon. We called it the greenhouse because it was all painted green, even painted the chimney green. I mean, it was the greenhouse. And so I lived there. And then I ran into Kathy Kaiser, my partner, and she finally moved in over there. But then I lived there, and then at that time, I bought the property, which was the back end loop. And I bought that from Goldie, who is one of the local guys you see every day, who's from Croatia. And he walked it every day down the street with the newspaper, and he does the same thing every day. But, yeah, but I bought that property from Goldie, and I redid it into a restaurant. And so Harold Russell came along, and he was working at the Hurricane. He wanted to have his own restaurant. And so Harold and I got together in 1995 when I had it redone and everything. And we leased it, he signed a lease with me in 1996. And Harold has been there for 25 years now. And he was one of the first really fine restaurants in the town that made the Tampa Bay Times, the gourmet area in the newspaper. And at that time, we did have some restaurants. We had Casa Cortez down on the corner where Caddy's is. And there was a little ice cream shop in the corner there. And then on up where Pia's was, that was a brick building back then, and that was kind of a city building or community building, and the Gulfport players did in the back, did their rehearsals and had their things in the back of that building. And between there on the corner where Anani is now was Chivo's vegetables thing. He had all kinds of, vegetables and fruits. And then on the corner was Doug and Barb Duchess, who had a lamp shop in that big two-story building. And then, of course, Lakota Bosque was on down where the parking lot was now. And I'm trying to think. Then the Beach Bazaar, that was still there. And so was Neptune down there, but that was called something else.
H.T. Keynes?
Mansfield.
Mansfield, before H.T. Keynes.
Yeah, it was Bill Mansfield and his wife. And then the Beach Bazaar, Mary used to work in there for years. Some people would remember her. And then Jan Dutton had a bookstore in Gulfport. And that was a bookstore for many years, where you go down the side and go in there. And then, of course, Beth Armstrong was still alive and had those big birds that made so much noise. And she had the tiki place down on the corner. And then after she quit doing that, Larry, what was Larry's last name? I don't remember. But Larry had a bar in there where the tiki was. And yeah, that was kind of funny. Larry, they always said his wife was kind of, And Larry was always approaching me and saying, "Why don't you go traveling with me in my van?" And I said, no. But then also, another thing was the Chamber of Commerce was in the casino. And it was way back in the left-hand corner. It was just like a little office with a desk in it. And Frances Purdy was, if anybody remembers Frances Purdy from years ago, she always sat at the desk. And the guy who was the executive director wanted to retire. And I had just come to town and, I dressed up nice and everything. So they wanted me to do that. So I said, okay, I'll be the executive director. So I became executive director of the Chamber of Commerce at Gulfport way back then. And I would get all dressed up and I'd go around and talk to different businesses and try to get them to join the chamber. And then the chamber finally moved out of the casino and moved up to where Regions Bank is, and they had a building out there, and they had the Chamber of Commerce in there. And then after me came Roy Huizenga, who took over the executive part.
So I'm going to interrupt you because
Sure.
the people who are watching this, not tonight but later, might see you gesturing off to the side and consulting with somebody. That's Kathy Kaiser, your partner. When did you meet Kathy? How did you meet Kathy?
Well, I had a shop I had the shop on the corner, and I was running back and forth from my shop over to the to the back fin because I'd go over there and I'd be sanding on railings and checking on contractors and stuff, and then I'd come back to my shop. Well, Kathy came running down the middle of the street on her bicycle and saw me running across the street, and she thought, oh boy, yeah, there's a hot one, you know. She would hang around in Topkus Boutique where Joanne D'Ambra had a shop. And so she kind of got it mixed in with the shop owners there. And they had another shop there called, what was that, Odd Lots with
Fireworks?
Penny Pinchers. With Jody Bacala and Pat. And they had penny pinchers, and they would go around and buy odd lots of things and put them in their shop and then resell them. And so anyway, there were a lot of shop owners on that block. Nan and Bill Griffin. Nan and Bill Griffin had a really nice shop, and they kept telling me, you should run for city council. You would make a good council member. So, you know, that's how I ended up running for city council, and Bill Griffin kept on me occasionally.
And we're going to get there, but again, you and Kathy, how did you and Kathy end up together? The last we heard is Kathy just thought you were really hot, and I don't disagree,
yeah, and so one time I needed my hair cut, and I said, boy, I'm flying back to Colorado or something. I said, wow, my hair needs trimming, and so Kathy says, I'll cut it. In Joanne's shop, she took a pair of scissors and cut my hair, and then I flew off, and then when I came back, Kathy and I, she wanted to know if I wanted to go play tennis. I said, well, sure, I'll play tennis with you. So she was checking me out. So I played tennis, and then we went to the zoo, and I guess we just kind of, fell into it. And then eventually she moved into the greenhouse with me. And we lived there for quite a few years until, well, I was on city council for 2 terms, and then after me came Michelle King for Ward 2. But after I got off the council, I couldn't move into Town Shores where we live now until I was, I couldn't move out of my ward. So I had to stay in Ward 2, because that's Ward 1. That's where April is.
So what was finally the tipping point that you decided this is it? I want to go for the glory and get paid almost no money and get beat up by all the residents and be on city council. What finally just did it for you that you decided it was time to run? For city council, why did you run?
Because everybody told me, well, you should. And then I had a friend named Nancy Spice. Does anybody remember Nancy Spice? Nancy, everybody said she would just lie. She said, okay, Dawn, you're going to run for council? Man, she went from door to door to door to door to door to door to door. I mean, that woman, there was no stopping her. And I think that's why I made it. And of course, we put a lot of signs out, and everybody stood on the street corners, and I'm trying to think of some of the other things. But I was running against Jack Olson, and he was the incumbent. And our vote was so close that they had to have a runoff. And so we had a runoff, and I beat him. So I ended up being on city council, and then I got reelected again the second term. But city council is really something. I mean, you ought to all have to do that sometime. On Fridays before council, we would get a notebook that was full of every agenda that was on the council meeting, for the meeting. And behind it would be all the staff work. And I mean, the staff, those are the people that do all the hard work. It's like in Washington. The big boys don't do the work. It's the people in the offices. So the staff would do all this work and research on a subject. So you would have to go through and check it all out And if you wanted to, you could go do some research on your own or check something out. But, so it was like going back to college to me, because I studied that notebook all weekend, and then you would meet with the city manager on Monday, and then Tuesday would be your meeting. So I was working all weekend, you know, trying to check on all this stuff and go here and there and look at the projects and things he wanted to do. And
Who was the city manager when you were on council?
uh,
Was it Paul Lee or Bob Lee?
it was Dr. Robert E. Lee, and I loved that man. He was great. And they're still friends of ours today. We still see Bob and Cindy. And they live in Naples. Yeah, he told me about being the city manager in Naples. He said, I couldn't handle it. He says, they come up there they come into my office, they plunk down a check and they'd say, we want this done. How much does it cost? And they'd write a check out for it. And it didn't matter how much it cost, they were going to write a check for it. And he said, you know, just didn't want to go by the rules. And but anyway, that's yeah. Bob Lee was a city manager, and then also Tom Brobile was a city manager too that I worked with, and he was a good city manager too.
Do you feel like, at least in your experience when you were on council, do you feel like that Gulfport played by the rules? Do you feel like there were things that, not the city council, but that staff could have done better? Or, I mean, how do you feel? There's a lot of bad things out there in the press about, oh, Florida politics is so bad. Was that your experience? Do you think our city staff was trying to do what's best for the residents?
I at that time, yeah, I think so. I still think that they try to do the best they can. I mean, if you know politics, you know that you're tied into compromising a lot of times with things that you wish you could do a certain way, but you can't because this is this way, or somebody wants this, or they want, you know, this. So it's the same anywhere. I guess you could have 100% the way you would like to have it happen, which, you know, go by the just and the right and the best way to do something, but it doesn't always happen that way. And the way the funding is, they have certain ways that they'll give you a grant if you do this or not, you know, your hands are tied a lot of times, although you wish you could do it a certain way.
One of the things that came up towards the end of your tenure on council was the idea of the human rights ordinance, which was the idea that if you wanted to do business with the city, if you wanted to be a landlord in the city, you could not discriminate based on someone's sexuality, on the way they looked, on a lot of those things. It didn't get passed until after you left city council.
Right.
But I think it's an interesting story that bears repeating how that even came to be. So would you share some of that with us?
Well, I believe Harry Broadhead brought it up, and we had quite a few gay and a few transgendered, and you know, and also black people and other people that were feeling that they were being discriminated against in different ways. And so this came to our attention, and I think that we decided that that was not right, and we should have a human rights ordinance. So we did a lot of mulling over and trying to figure out, you know, how to put that into effect. And as it was, it didn't get passed until Michelle King came on after I did. But yeah, I was mulled over for a while.
Is there any instance you can point to where you witnessed some sort of discrimination that was, today we would call it hate speech or acts of hate, but at the time I think we just said discriminatory acts. Is there anything you ever witnessed in Gulfport that you can point to and say that you witnessed that or you saw some hateful?
I don't know. I really can't think of anything specific that I ever witnessed. in that way. But then, I don't know, I'm kind of a, you know, hey, I don't know, I'm an easy go, and I guess I don't expect that from anybody, and I don't expect to see it, and I don't think I ever witnessed it. But correct me if I'm wrong.
You're never wrong.
I just didn't. I know that it happened from some of the stories that people would tell, but I never really witnessed it personally with anybody.
How would you describe Gulfport when you first came here, and perhaps when you and Kathy first got together? How would you describe the attitudes in Gulfport about people who were not living in the traditional family unit? How would you describe just the attitudes on the street when you and Kathy would walk somewhere together or go into a restaurant?
Well, I think that actually I think we did very well. I really didn't. I can't say that I really experienced being discriminated against. Yeah, you're losing me on that.
No, that's okay. That's wonderful. That's a great thing to be able to say.
Because that's one thing that Gulfport is proud and nationwide known for is it's a very diverse population, and people are accepted here, all ages, all types. It's a good city that way. And if there are people that discriminate in the city, then I mean they stand out like a sore thumb. So
it's one of the things I like the most about Gulfport.
Yes.
So we haven't talked about the elephant in the room, which is your little basket next to you.
Oh yeah.
When did you begin your love affair with litter? When did that start?
Well, actually, that started back in Colorado because I used to take my little grandson out and pick litter along the highways. And we would get such a pile that we would have to call the county to get a truck to come out and get it. And they weren't used to that. But anyway, when I came to town here, I started picking litter when we lived in the greenhouse. I get up around 4:30, and I'd go out and I'd start picking litter up 49th Street. And I heard gunshots over there, and turned out the FBI and the cops were doing a drug bust across the street, and just all kinds of stuff like that. But I'd pick over across 49th Street all up through that area, and they all would come out and say, "Thank you very much for picking up our yard," you know. They always were very, but I tell you what, I wore an orange shirt, black shorts, and some tennis shoes, and I think they think I was a bank lady. Because a lot of people would try to give me money. That's true, I did. I picked up a parking lot up on 49th Street, and the guy came out of the building. He says, hey, here's the, I said, I don't need the money. I just, was cleaning up your parking lot. No, you got to take it. So I had to take $5 from him, I'm just crazy that way. I know we ate way up at a Thai restaurant, way up on 118th somewhere. And I came out and said, wow, this whole shopping mall is a freaking mess. And the next morning I drove up there before they all opened. I picked up that whole parking lot. And I mean, it really looked great when I got done. And I was real happy, about that. But this thing about litter, my mother raised me, you got to fold the towels this way, and you got to put fresh paper, and you got to defrost the fridge, and you got to, you got to do all this stuff. She got OCD, so it stuck.
So how many miles? I noticed you don't have a fitness tracker.
No,
you don't need one. But
No.
how many miles a day are you walking with litter?
Well, see, you got an app on your phone. There's that little app with the heart on it, and it tells you how far you've gone. Like I've done 8,435 miles today.
Miles?
No, that's steps. more steps than other days.
So you talked about your mother a little bit, and you talked about people giving you money, but there's something that I thought was supposed to be off the record until you mentioned it to Amanda Haygood when she interviewed you. And that is that when the Gulfport Community Players had looked for a rehearsal space, you found out that because I remember this, I was working with them, they had a balloon payment on a $250,000 mortgage, and in 2005, that was a big deal in Gulfport. It's a big deal anywhere. I mean, I wouldn't want it now.
Yeah.
And you simply just walked in with a check, and I remember I was told they wanted to name the building after you, and you said no.
No, I know that we have a lot of personal names on places, and I just don't have a thing about that. I heard that the Gulfport Players, they had like a $50,000 personal loan with one person, and then they had this other $200,000 or whatever it was they owed on another thing, and that was on the backdoor playhouse. And at that time, I'm trying to think what year that was. But anyway, I had come into some money because my brother had gone and spent all this money, and my mother had covered his checks. And my father found out, and he said, well, that's not fair. So he made sure that my sister and I got the same amount of money that he'd blown. And so I came into some money. And I just always have the feeling that if you give, it comes back to you. And it always has. And at that time, so I heard about the Gulfport Players, and so I went over and I paid off their mortgages and stuff. And I did it kind of for my mother because she wanted to study drama, and she went to Oberlin College in Ohio. And then she ran with my father, and they got married, and then she had kids, and she never did get to go back. So I thought, well, I'll do that for my mother. But I never wanted to, put anybody's name on it. I said, like Eileen Navarro, she has kept the Gulfport Community Players going for years. And Kathy Kohler and a lot of the people that have been with Gulfport Community Players are a hard-working bunch, and they've just been around it. Boy, if you missed seeing Gilligan's Island, that was so good. So anyway, I think Eileen, I just really think she's a hard-working person. Really.
So let me ask you, when you think about Gulfport, it's changed, right? So you moved here, in the 90s? It's changed a lot since I moved here. How would you describe Gulfport when you moved here, and how would you describe it now to somebody who had never visited? How would you, both times, how would you have done it then, and how would you do it now? If someone said, well, what's Gulfport like?
Oh.
What is Gulfport like?
What, now?
Now and then. Let's start back then. What would you have said then?
I mean, it used to be like Kathy and I could walk down the middle of Beach Boulevard. There wouldn't be any cars or anybody if you went and walked down the street around 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. And it just wasn't a up and jumping place.
Well, what did you like about it when you moved here? What was the appeal?
I don't know. We just got. I don't pay. Things happen that you're just drawn to, and so I ended up in Gulfport, and it had just kept evolving and thriving, and more good artists and people came to town, and it just got warmer and nicer and more welcoming to others, and the city became more active. It's just a great town.
So now, when you travel now and you tell people you're from Gulfport, how do you describe us?
Well, I don't know. I know we were in New York City watching a parade, and some woman asked us something about something, and we said, oh, we're from Gulfport, Florida. And she said, Gulfport? I'm from Gulfport. I mean, you'd be surprised what a small world it is. So, I don't know, we always talk about Gulfport. And we had our cabin up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for 15 years, and then Kathy would go to the workout room, and there were some people that she was talking about Gulfport up there, and then one day I'm picking litter down here on the pier, and this couple came up to me with their dog, and they said, "Aren't you the same lady that picks litter up in Curtis?" And I said, "Yes." Well, it turned out to be Veronica and David Badgley. And they had gotten a place, what was it, Lakeland?
Leesburg.
Yeah. And so they weren't happy up there. So they bought a place in Town Shores. They live in Town Shores now with their dog Curtis. So we see Veronica and David and have dinner with them quite often. So.
I know that we have people who want to ask you questions, but I have just a few more. I know a few years ago you walked the El Camino.
Yes, we did. Well, in 2008.
That was only a few years ago.
Relatively.
Relatively. My understanding of the El Camino is it's not necessarily a pristine route. How was that for you, walking? Because I imagine you didn't bring the cart with you, right?
Well, excuse me. No, I would have had to have a truck. I mean, a pick, that wouldn't have worked. But anyway, I was 75 then. And I had read Shirley MacLaine's book about the Camino. And I said to Kathy, I said, "Oh, I'd really like to do that. Yeah, we thought about that. That'd be great." But we had to wait till I got off council. So that's why we had to wait till 2008. And so we flew over there and we walked the Camino. And it was a great experience. We walked it in September and October. And the weather was good, but towards the end it was starting to shut down because it was starting to snow in the mountains, because that is in the Pyrenees Mountains. We climbed up the first thing. They say if you make it up the first hill, you'll probably complete it. But a lot of people never make it up the first hill because it is quite a climb. But there were 75-mile-an-hour winds up there at the top of the mountain. It was trying to blow you off the mountain. So that was quite an experience. But it was great. We walked about 12 miles every day. And you'd come to a little town, and it was great. And when we got done, there were 5 Americans that completed it with us. And now there are scads of people going over and walking the Camino. We did it back when it was just beginning to become popular. However, it's a pilgrimage that a lot of Europeans make every year. So it's been going on for many, many years.
What made you decide? Why did you want to do it?
Well, because I read Shirley MacLaine's book.
Oh, because
Yeah.
that's all it took. What's still on your bucket list?
Oh boy. Well, we're supposed to go to Portugal in, was it June or July? Yeah. We want to go to Lisbon. We've been to Spain, and we've been all over Europe, and we'd like to go to Croatia and maybe Slovenia, and we haven't been to Australia yet. That's a long flight. So, but we've been all over South America, and we really enjoyed Cuenca. Ecuador. Yeah. Well, some friends go on travels, and then we talk to them, and they say, "Oh, hey, you got to go try this. Oh, you should go do this." And so we go and do it,
Very suggestible.
Yeah.
Two-part question. What advice would you give to a freshman council person? not just in Gulfport, on any city like Gulfport, where it's a city manager form of government and the council is more of a representational body than a governing one, what would be your advice for them?
I would say, be out on the streets, know your constituents, because some city council members, you never see them on the street. You never meet them on the sidewalk. You never see them at events. I don't know what they're doing, but there are certain people who go out and are among the people and find out what's going on, how they feel about things. And I would say another thing is work your notebook. I would go to meetings and sometimes you could tell that somebody was not aware of all the research that had been done on that item. And that really breaks your heart to know that, you know, you work so hard and then, anyway, those couple of things.
So along the same lines, what would you say to a voter who is trying to decide who to vote for in a smaller city like Gulfport? What questions would you ask a voter, tell a voter they should ask of people asking for their vote?
I guess I would say get to know the person you're voting for if it's possible. You know, read about them, find out what they're involved in, or people that know them, find out what kind of person they are, and what their goals are. That's
fair. That's fair. And then what would you say, you've been involved, obviously, you've touched a lot of things and people in Gulfport with your actions, with things you've done. What would you say to somebody who was new? What advice would you give to them about being a part of the Gulfport community? What would you say to them?
Well, I run into people on the street and they say, well, like the people today, they were from Virginia, and I said, well, hey, Gulfport's a great town. And they said, yeah, we sure like it. And I said, well, I'm sure you would really love living there if you want to.
You're not a realtor, are you?
No, I'm not. But yeah, I guess I would just say to people that I've enjoyed living here, and I'm sure that anybody would. I would hope so, because our city is very welcoming. I think we have a bunch of good city officials. You can't believe how responsive they are. All I have to do is take a picture of something and send it to Jim O'Reilly or Tim Connors or Tom or any of the city crew. And I mean, they come right out there and they've got it done the next day. And I'm talking about a lot of, piles of stuff or like a water fountain that needs to be repainted, or something that's broken, like the casino light being out, or the lights being off the trees that the kids are, or vandalism. They respond so well to me. I can't be thankful enough for the city staff that we have. And while I'm saying thankful, I want to thank you, Kathy, for taking over the Gabber. Because you have done a very good job, and the Gabber has a new life, and we all enjoy it so much. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. So before we started tonight, when we were walking in, I made the horrible mistake of trying to throw some trash into your wagon, and I was stopped because this is one of the only times you don't have garbage in there. I think you have some things you brought tonight.
Yeah, I did. I brought some pictures. I brought a before and after the back fan and some pictures of my shop on Beach Boulevard and some stuff like that. And some family pictures that.
Do you think we could set them out when we're done here so people might be able to take a look? I know we want to be respectful of the space, and I do have some questions from other people, and people may have had questions.
Good.
Somebody asked very specifically, what do you believe is your greatest success in life so far? Because you're clearly not done yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, wow, success. I don't know what that would be. I guess staying alive.
That's not a joke today.
That's no longer a joke.
Yeah, I work hard. I've always taken vitamins and worked out. I had a trainer. She did this little sign for me, Jane Carpenter. She's my trainer. She comes like 3 times a week when we're around. And she made that sign for my cart. And sometimes I have it on my cart, sometimes I don't. But I brought it to me.
Somebody else asked how long you've been keeping Gulfport clean. So you've been picking up since the day you moved here, is that it? Or did something click with you and you started one day? When did you start picking up litter in Gulfport?
Gee, I think as long as I was here. I can remember when I first started, I would go out early in the morning when it was still dark. Mm-hmm. And I was picking litter down, I think it was 58. And this guy walked in the morning all the time. His name was Joe. And Joe came up on me and he said, boy, you ought to be wearing gloves, because I wasn't. And the next morning, he brought me a pair of gloves. And then the next morning, I ran into Joe, and he said, he said, if you told me your bra size, my wife knows where to get 15-cent bras. I didn't joke. Yeah, that was really funny. I think he thought I was kind of a bag lady. I just wore the orange shirt and the black shorts all the time. And so one time, Joe ended up having a rock shop on Beach Boulevard. And it was right, I'm trying to think, it was right in where, well, it was nearest to mine.
Her seed hags is now. Her seed dog.
Sea dog?
Was it Sea Dog?
Yeah.
Okay. But he had a little rock shop in there. He did rocks and everything. So one day I got all dolled up, got my Cadillac, and I drove down there and pulled in front. And Joe was standing out there. I got out of the car and he. And so he took me in the rock shop. His wife was sitting in there. And he took me to the back of the rock shop, and he had this freaking bulletin board on the wall with all this stuff about me. I'm like, what the heck? Okay, his wife loved that.
That's not at all creepy.
That's what Joe was talking about.
So you mentioned having a business,
Yeah.
right? You had a business, you were selling the antiques. Did you work outside the home before you came to Gulfport? Was there something you did before you lived in Florida, in Colorado? For outside the home. Not that that's not work, but.
Well, I'll tell you, I was married for 36 years to John, and he bought cattle for beef plants. And every time they put up a new beef plant, we'd be moving. So every couple of years, we would be moving, and so I moved all over the U.S., and I'll tell you what I did. I learned to paint, how to do electric, how to do plumbing, how to fix shake shingles, how to fix the flashing on your roof, how to put sprinklers underground, how to dig up irrigation pipe and splice it and put the pipes back. Let's see, how to run the lawnmower, the riding lawnmower, which one time we lived in Council Bluffs and my husband decided he was going to run the lawnmower. So, and we lived, well, in Council Bluffs. Bluffs is the word. And our house sat on a bluff. And so John got on the lawnmower and he's going around and he didn't realize you had to sit over on this side, clear over by on the center, the fender. And he's riding along there and all of a sudden the lawnmower, and John's running down the hill and the lawnmower's going. So, poor John, he just was not a homebody about how to fix things and do things. So, yeah, that's what I did in my spare time.
So what you're saying is all of us who are struggling to find a really good general contractor, we just need to catch you and Kathy when you're not traveling and you can handle it for us.
Hey, we did bricks, yeah, we put in a fountain there behind our greenhouse over there, beautiful fountain. And she's over there measuring and putting the bricks in and everything, and I'm over here. And she said, God, yours looks as good as mine, and I'm, did all that measuring. Well, I moved so many times, when I see a picture, a wall, and I put the picture up. And a couple of days, it looks like I've lived there for 5 years. Because I moved so many times. But,
We're going to open it up for questions here, but is there anything that we haven't asked you that you want to share with people? I mean, there certainly wasn't enough time to ask everything, but...
I know there's so many things that I'm trying to think of. There's some stories I really missed, which...
I think, like the strangest thing you've ever found picking litter.
Oh, yeah, the strangest thing. Well, one day I was picking down east of the casino along the walkway there. This was quite a few years ago, and I saw this thing floating in the water. So I went out there. It was a prothesis. It was somebody's leg. And so I pulled it up on stage, and then I went on out the pier, and out here on the end of the pier was this guy sleeping. And he was missing a leg. And I said to him, hey, I said, are you missing a leg? And he started to cuss. And then he looked around and I said, well, I found your leg in the water, and he's right down there on the beach. I did find your leg, so yeah, that was about that was the strangest thing I found. And another time I found a driver's license laying on the walk across the Romantics, and I picked it up, and it's some girl had a Colorado. From Colorado. And so took it home, and Kathy and I looked up on the Facebook and connected up with some friend. She was staying with somebody in Town Shores, and she was going to fly home the next day. Well, how was she going to do that with no driver's license? So anyway, got the driver's license back to her.
And like, I don't know where to go after found a prosthetic leg. I'm still processing that.
Well, I was picking along the city right away on Gulfport Boulevard one time, and I found a credit card, somebody's gold Visa, and I took them home, and I looked the person up on the white pages, on the internet, and he was from Lakeland. I found him, and I put it in and mailed it off to him, and he wrote me the nicest letter. And yeah, it's like that. Then one time we found a camera out sitting on the, on the casino where they have the little things on each side of the steps. Found a camera sitting there, and we took it and we tried to figure out, well, who would this belong to? And so we went into the casino and asked what had been going. Well, they had a wedding. And we contacted somebody that was in the wedding party, and this guy had left his camera. He'd been taking all the wedding pictures and left his camera sitting there. And so he came over from Tampa, I believe, and got his camera with all the wedding pictures on it. Wow. So that was another nice thing. And one time I was at the Peninsula Inn, and I found this the day minder, what do you call it? A whole thing with...
Like a planner?
Yeah, the planner.
Okay.
And it had all the credit cards, pegs, all this stuff for some woman. And so took it home, and we called her up, we called
The
up.
number that was in it. and it turned out to be your husband in Seattle or something.
Yeah, her husband. And he said, well, can't you call her or something? He
Yeah.
said,
It was back in the day when it would cost to call.
Yes.
It's like, could you call her? Because it would cost me to call. And I'm like,
yeah, can't you call her?
right here.
Wow.
Because she was, from that far away. But anyway, we got that back to her, and she came and got it. She wanted to give us a big reward because she had a lot of money in it and everything. But so, just glad to get it back to you. So,
Does anybody have any questions for Dawn Fisher? I mean, really, I can't get past the prosthetic leg, but if you think you can, please. Yes, ma'am.
I haven't heard any stories when you were a stewardess.
You were a stewardess.
well, I wasn't actually a stewardess. I was a flight dispatcher for Braniff Airlines in Dallas, Texas, back in the late 50s.
What did that involve?
I'm sorry.
What does a flight dispatcher do?
Well, back then, that was before they had a lot of the technology they have today. And a flight dispatcher had charts on flights, and you would send the, what do you want to say, the telegram or telegraph, whatever it was. You would send it on to the next station, letting them know how many passengers, what the flight was, and if it was on time and all this stuff. But it was all, it was very different back then.
What airline?
Braniff. You probably never heard of Braniff.
Yeah, right.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, I
Yes,
want
please.
to know if you ever gave Joe your bottom bra size and.
Did you ever give Joe your bra size for the 15-cent bra?
Oh, no, I never told him that.
I have a question about Joe. What was on the bulletin board?
And what was on the bulletin board in the back of Joe's shop?
Well, I think there was an article about me in the paper, and
Some photographs.
some photographs, and geez.
Like bullet points out of the gabber and stuff. But his wife was sitting in a lawn chair right under the shrine.
What was Joe's fascination with you think?
Well, I don't know. I suppose because I was out there early every morning, just like he was,
I mean, I get up early and no one has a bulletin board which is okay.
Hey, I don't know. I'd be out really early a lot of times. So, that's a good time to go because you don't, especially now because there's so many cars parked everywhere. You can catch the litter before they park on it. So,
Well, Gulfport did not used to be, even when I moved here, I'll still browse when we go downtown and I'll say, well, I remember when I moved here, you get a parking spot on a Friday night. And it's definitely better now, but you've definitely seen some changes as far as, does it affect your routine for?
yeah, oh yeah. If I want to get something done in particular, like if I've got where I pull weeds out of the mud and stuff like that along the curbs, and there are a lot of things I want to do that you can do before people start parking. So if I come down early on a Sunday morning, well, I can get a lot of things done that I can't otherwise. And I got trimmers, I got a rake, I got a shovel, I got trimmers, I got a, file.
We should perhaps put you back on the city payroll.
I asked him, I said something to either Jim or Tim, one or the other, and I said, do you suppose I could, get that? Well, I need a truck, I need a city truck. And I asked him, I said, well, where am I supposed to take all this stuff I pick up? Because it's like today, I had a cart full of palm fronds that I picked up from an apartment on the back on 54th, which had been bothering me for about a week. And I had to take it down to the casino to find a dumpster, because that was, they said, well, if you got stuff to dump, take it to the casino and put it in the dumpsters because they empty them every day. And otherwise, I put it out on the
Right.
the landscaping.
Mhm.
Like I trimmed the trees on 31st Street because they were bothering me. And they were hanging down, people could walk those walkways, and I do that. Like I go up the walkways, and if something's hanging over the walk and stuff, like the Welcome Center, they have these little plants, and they have all these little barbs on it, and everything. I trim those all up, and I take those, and then I take them all and put them out there, and then I'll tell the guys about it, and then they'll come and pick them up. So,
So, how do you know when you're done every morning? I mean, we got a lot of streets, so at what point do you just say, I'm done, or do you say, I'm not done, but I've done enough? I mean, how do you know when it's time to go back? I mean, I imagine Kathy likes to see you too. So how do you know when it's time to go back home?
gee, my days vary. Sometimes I'll be picking up downtown around the bars or whatever. Or I might go over to Boca Ciega Yacht Club and pick up over there because they get a lot of sticks in the yard from the trees and a lot of palm fronds fall down along the fences. And I clean down at the end and I clean along the curbs and I clean the city right away. And I take all this stuff and they have 3 big dumpsters. So, that makes me happy.
Well, you're keeping our taxes down because I think you're doing the work of a couple of city staffers. So thank you.
Years ago, they used to have Linda and another gal that worked the landscaping. And now they only have Topher, and Topher just plants new plants and waters plants. And I don't see Topher out there too often, but they don't have the staff anymore working on the landscaping and things that they used to years ago. And I wish that, really, that's one thing that kind of bothers me, because I'm thinking about getting a better shovel, and I need to clean behind those parking blocks, because of all these leaves and all this stuff washes into the drains, and then it goes out into the bay.
Yes.
And the street sweeper isn't going to get it, and we have a contract with the street cleaners to come like the 15th and the 30th, and so there are some things they cannot get with a street sweeper.
That's why we have you.
So, and I love doing it. I just like being outside. I really do, and I love my city, and most everybody in it.
Most everybody. There we go. Another question.
Is there anything you'd like to see changed in Gulfport? Parking or something like that?
I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that for the recording. Is there anything you'd like to see changed in Gulfport? And I think you said parking?
Like parking?
Parking. Is there anything you want to see changed in Gulfport?
Well, I don't know. I heard the word parking. Did you say parking?
She said like parking.
Like,
For example, I think?
for example,
Yes. Is there anything you'd like to see changed in Gulfport?
Well, I hope they don't institute paid parking like they have in other places. Now, Pia's have opened those 2 lots there for parking. I don't know if they charge sometimes. But years ago, they had that whole lot behind O'Maddy's and Salty's that was a vacant lot. And I said, when I was on council, I said, you gotta buy that lot for parking. It's only $150,000, we can afford it. But they never did, and now we've got those 2-story houses all up there. But that would have been a good parking lot. And I have said to Joe Gunford, I said, you and Maddie ought to make that lot next to her boutique into a parking lot. I mean, you could park a lot of cars in there, you could make some money. It would bring people into her boutique.
What do they say when you say that?
Joe said, well, Maddie wants to do a male boutique. For men.
Okay.
But I haven't seen anything transpire along that line. But I did say something to Joe about it. Because Joe, I'll tell you, Joe Gunther is a great guy from the city. He has the cleanest, behind his restaurant, he cleans his dumpsters, he hoses down the gutters, he picks up all around, he picks up the butts in front. He really keeps a clean property, and I really admire him for doing that. And you know, some people don't care about their properties or take care of them.
So now I want to ask who has the dirtiest property in Gulfport? And I don't know if you're going to answer. I mean, if you know what the cleanest is, you have all of our dirty laundry. You know which ones of us recycle. You know who's throwing out. You have a lot of power. I mean, that's
That's power.
I don't know. That struck me. You know, he has the cleanest backside. Well, that's not it.
We used to have a truck, and we'd go up the alleys, and we'd pick up garbage and throw it in the truck and go to the dump and dump it. We did. We used to do that for years.
You're quite a date. Wow.
We had a lot of fun in that truck.
Is there another question somewhere, sir?
Yeah, hi. So, obviously, you know, some of the things you worked on in HR were ahead of its time, but very forward thinking. So, you know, and recently we've had a lot of the contemporary situations. We've had this mass migratory, in the whole Bay Area, we've had these mass migratory and economic influxes. Where, you know, applying the same forward thinking to Gulfport, where do you see Gulfport going in like 5-10 years?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite
Where do you
understand.
see Gulfport in 5 to 10 years?
Where do I see it going? Wow, I wish I was, you know, psychic. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go for 5 or 10 years. I suppose it depends on our future council members that are elected, or a new mayor, or whatever. You know, it'll make a lot of difference. And then also the grants that can be accessed by the city. I don't know. I think it's kind of scary seeing these people coming in and buying up these properties, and I mean they're really sky high, and people are buying up these older homes and tearing them down and building these new, really big homes, and it's changing the face of this whole area, just slowly, one by one, and they're all over. I mean, there's a container house. Have you seen the container house over on 49th down there? I built out of metal containers. And I think it's great that people are finding the ways to build homes. And it'll probably be maybe a beautiful thing when they get done. But to see, that's changed. And you can just drive around the city and see where they're knocking down houses and building new ones. I don't know what that's going to do. And then it's like that place next to Salty's. Those people wanted to put in a great, big, beautiful restaurant, all glass front. I mean, it looked like something out of LA. And they wanted like 300 or 500 parking spaces here. You can't have that in Gulfport. But I guess that's run into a snag because one of the people got sick or died or something, so it's kind of just in limbo.
Do we have, I'm sorry, I see a few other hands. Can I just want to?
This just relates to Dawn. Wasn't there an artist when she saw you out always doing pick and everything? Didn't she create a book? She put you in her book?
A book?
Yeah, she painted her? Kathy, I'm trying to remember.
Lorraine did that.
Oh, yeah, Lorraine, what's her name?
Is it in there? Did she bring it?
It's like a little treasure box, isn't it?
No, she's
And what she's going to pull out.
a lot. She touches a lot of people.
Yeah, Little Town Big Heart.
Yes.
Yeah, this is written by Lorraine. She's a sculptor. She has sculptures in Tampa around it. She does a lot of photography. It's a book that she saw me picking litter one day, and she asked me about it, and she wanted to know if it'd be all right if she'd take some pictures. So she took some pictures of Gulfport, and she talked about the town in here, and she she took some pictures of me picking litter, you know, like that, like there I am picking litter.
Seriously, she affects a lot, she touches a lot of people.
I believe that Dawn touches a lot of
Yes.
people.
Someone else.
Not like that. Slow down,
That's the final picture.
That's you. That's definitely you.
Yeah. So I say, yeah, Lorraine, yeah, she's a great gal. That was real nice. I had no idea who she was. And she asked if she could take some pictures and let her. So she said, yeah.
This is great. Folks, do we have any more questions? All right, Dawn, I think I speak for everybody here and a lot of people in Gulfport when we think about what contributes to the character of Gulfport. It's not just people like you, it is you. So thank you for being here tonight.